The ammonia-scented cleaner dripped from Kaida Nakamura's gloved hands as she paused mid-circle on the F-35's canopy. Something in Colonel Martinez's voice had shifted during the morning briefing. That particular inflection when classified information hung unspoken in the air, like static before lightning. She'd heard it before, 13 months ago over Kandahar, when her squadron received orders that didn't exist on paper. Now, squinting through the pristine glass at the tarmac beyond, Kaida noticed the unmarked sedan parked between hangars 7 and 8. Black. Government plates. The kind of vehicle that appeared when operations transcended normal channels. Her reflection stared back Asian features that had drawn snickers from flight school classmates who assumed her father's Medal of Honor meant nepotism, not genetic predisposition for spatial reasoning that made her lethal in three-dimensional combat. The cloth squeaked against plexiglass as she resumed cleaning muscle memory, guiding her hands while her mind cataloged inconsistencies. 3 intelligence officers had observed this morning's routine maintenance. Routine maintenance never attracted intelligence officers. The squadron's newest pilot, Rodriguez, kept glancing at her tail section, where the mission patches created a fabric timeline of deployments most people assumed were training exercises. Kaida's call sign, Ghost, had evolved from a joke about her tendency to appear unexpectedly during night operations into something spoken with grudging respect. Ghost because she vanished from radar screens when physics suggested impossible. Ghost because enemy aircraft simply stopped responding after she engaged. Ghost because the classified afteraction reports detailed maneuvers that shouldn't exist within known flight parameters. The morning sun reflected off her aircraft's tail, illuminating the small fabric square positioned deliberately among standard deployment patches. Most observers saw generic mission insignia. Military historians might recognize the stylized mountain peak as Bagram-adjacent operations, but intelligence analysts with appropriate clearance levels would identify the specific black triangle overlaying red stripes as something else entirely. Something that matched exactly the redacted operation designation in files that officially didn't exist. Martinez approached across the flight line, his combat boots creating small dust clouds with each step. Behind him, the intelligence officers maintained careful distance, their presence both obvious and deniable. Kaida's hand instinctively moved to the patch, fingertips tracing the embroidered edges that contained more classified information than most Pentagon briefings. Nakamura. His voice carried that particular weight again. She lowered the cleaning cloth, meeting his gaze through the canopy. "Sir, finish up here. We need to talk." The sedan's engine started across the tarmac, black exhaust dissipating into the desert heat like secrets dissolving into bureaucracy. Kaida's reflection in the cockpit glass showed a pilot whose routine maintenance detail had just evolved into something considerably more complex. 26 months earlier, Kaida had been Lieutenant Nakamura, fresh from advanced tactical training and eager to prove herself beyond her surname's shadow. The Nakamura name carried weight in military aviation circles. Her father's posthumous Medal of Honor for actions over North Vietnam created expectations that felt simultaneously inspiring and suffocating. Everyone assumed she'd inherited his courage. Few understood she'd also inherited his analytical precision. Bagram Airfield existed in that peculiar military limbo, where official operations blended seamlessly with activities that would never appear in congressional testimony. Qaida's F-35 squadron officially conducted routine reconnaissance missions along the Pakistani border. Unofficially, they pursued objectives that required pilots capable of engaging theoretical enemy aircraft with actual missiles while maintaining plausible deniability. The mission briefing occurred in a windowless room where maps showed topographical features without political boundaries. Colonel Martinez, then a major, outlined flight parameters that skirted international law with mathematical precision. Intelligence suggests enemy aircraft have been probing our defensive perimeter, he explained, his finger tracing routes that corresponded suspiciously to Chinese stealth fighter patrol patterns. Qaida's squadron leader, Captain Morrison, interrupted with typical directness. "Are we talking about intercepts or engagements?" "You're talking about following rules of engagement that will be explained during individual briefings," Martinez replied. Translation: shoot first, classify later. The individual briefing revealed the mission's true complexity. Satellite imagery showed Chinese stealth fighters conducting reconnaissance flights over strategically sensitive areas. Official diplomatic channels couldn't acknowledge these incursions without triggering international incidents. Unofficial military responses required pilots willing to engage enemy aircraft in airspace that technically belonged to allied nations, who officially knew nothing about American operations. Qaida studied the mission parameters with her father's methodical approach. Primary objective: intercept and deter. Secondary objective: engage if threatened. Tertiary objective: ensure no evidence remained for international courts to examine. The mathematics of aerial combat merged with the geometry of political deniability. Her F-35 launched into pre-dawn darkness, radar signature minimized to roughly the size of a sparrow. The heads-up display showed friendly aircraft as blue triangles, commercial traffic as white squares, and unknown contacts as amber diamonds. The amber diamonds appeared exactly where intelligence predicted. Ghost, contact bearing 270, altitude 38,000, speed Mach 1.2. Morrison's voice crackled through encrypted communications. Kaida adjusted her approach vector, feeling the familiar sensation of physics and politics converging at 500 miles per hour. The Chinese fighters were beautiful, angular stealth profiles that represented billions in research and development, piloted by aviators whose training probably paralleled her own. The engagement lasted 47 seconds. Precision missiles found their targets with statistical certainty that transformed cutting-edge military aircraft into debris patterns scattered across terrain that officially contained no evidence of international incidents. Martinez's current demeanor suggested those 47 seconds had acquired renewed significance. The intelligence officers flanked him as they approached Kaida's aircraft, their synchronized movement indicating practiced coordination. Military bureaucrats only moved with such precision when operations transcended routine classification levels. "The patch, Nakamura," Martinez said without preamble. "Where did you get it?" Kaida's hand moved instinctively to the fabric square on her flight suit. The black triangle over red stripes had been issued after the Bagram mission, along with explicit instructions never to discuss its significance. Standard procedure for operations that existed in historical gray areas. "A standard mission patch, sir, issued with deployment completion." "No." One of the intelligence officers stepped forward, a woman with silver hair and eyes that suggested she'd spent decades interpreting information that couldn't be shared. "That specific patch corresponds to an operation that was officially canceled before execution. According to all records, no aircraft launched that night. No engagements occurred. No enemy contacts were eliminated." The desert wind shifted, carrying the scent of jet fuel and heated metal across the flight line. Other pilots continued their maintenance routines, unaware that their colleagues' mission patch had become the center of a classification crisis. Martinez's expression revealed the complexity of his position. 3 days ago, Chinese intelligence services released satellite imagery showing debris patterns consistent with J-20 stealth fighters. The wreckage is located in airspace where no American aircraft have officially operated. The debris includes serial numbers that match aircraft the Chinese government claims never existed. Kaida understood immediately. The Bagram operation had achieved perfect tactical success and complete strategic failure. Enemy aircraft eliminated, international incidents avoided, plausible deniability maintained, until satellite technology evolved sufficiently to reveal historical truth. "They're claiming the debris proves American aggression in neutral airspace," the intelligence officer continued. "Our position is that we cannot confirm or deny operations that don't exist in official records. However, physical evidence suggests otherwise." The F-35's polished canopy reflected Kaida's face, splitting her image between the pilot who followed orders and the aviator whose precision had created international complications. The mission patch represented 47 seconds that had successfully eliminated enemy aircraft while potentially destabilizing diplomatic relationships, with military consequences that extended far beyond individual careers. Martinez consulted his tablet, scrolling through information that would never appear in Freedom of Information requests. The Chinese have identified specific missile fragments that correspond to American ordnance. They're demanding explanations for attacks that officially never occurred, carried out by pilots who officially never engaged enemy aircraft. The secure conference room in Building 447 contained no windows, no decorations, and no recording equipment that appeared in any official inventory. Qaeda sat across from three intelligence officers whose nameplates had been removed, facing questions about operations that existed only in her memory and classified databases that would be deleted regardless of her answers. "Walk us through the engagement sequence," the silver-haired woman requested. Her voice carried the authority of someone whose recommendations influenced military careers and international policy. Qaeda closed her eyes, returning to that pre-dawn moment when her F-35's radar had locked onto Chinese stealth fighters. Two contacts, maintaining formation at 38,000 feet, approaching restricted airspace with intent to penetrate defensive perimeter. Did you receive authorization to engage? Rules of engagement specified defensive response to hostile intent. The aircraft ignored radio warnings and continued approach toward strategically sensitive installations. The second intelligence officer, a man whose uniform contained no rank insignia, leaned forward. Describe the actual engagement. Qaeda's hands moved instinctively, recreating the stick and rudder inputs that had positioned her aircraft for optimal missile employment. Approached from below, maintaining stealth profile. First missile eliminated the lead aircraft at range of 12 nautical miles. Second missile eliminated the wingman 3 seconds later. Did you visually confirm aircraft destruction? Affirmative. Both aircraft disintegrated upon impact. Debris patterns suggested complete structural failure with no survivors. The room fell silent except for the ventilation system's mechanical whisper. The intelligence officers exchanged glances that contained entire conversations about political implications and strategic consequences. Martinez, who had remained silent throughout the questioning, finally spoke. "The problem, Nakamura, is that your perfectly executed mission has become a diplomatic nightmare. The Chinese have physical evidence of American military action in neutral airspace. They're demanding accountability for what they're calling an unprovoked attack." Kaida understood the geometry of the situation with tactical clarity. Her successful mission had eliminated enemy aircraft while creating evidence that could destabilize international relationships. The same precision that made her lethal in aerial combat had generated political complications that transcended military solutions. "What are my options, sir?" The silver-haired intelligence officer consulted her tablet, reviewing information that existed in classifications above Kaida's clearance level. Option 1. We officially deny the operation occurred. Your mission patch becomes contraband. Your service record gets selectively edited. The Bagram deployment disappears from official histories. Option 2, Kaida asked. Option 2 involves significantly more complex considerations. The implications of Option 2 became clear during the following 24 hours. Kaida found herself confined to quarters, while intelligence analysts reviewed every aspect of her military service, searching for patterns that might indicate broader operational compromises. Her mission patches were photographed, cataloged, and temporarily confiscated for authentication verification. Major Patricia Reyes, the squadron's intelligence liaison, visited with updates that revealed the international crisis's expanding scope. Chinese diplomatic channels are demanding explanation for what they're calling evidence of American military aggression. Satellite imagery shows debris patterns that match stealth fighter components scattered across terrain that's technically within Allied airspace. Kaida reviewed the tactical situation with methodical precision. Chinese stealth fighters had been conducting reconnaissance missions that violated international agreements. American defensive responses had eliminated those aircraft within legal parameters of self-defense. The resulting debris, however, existed in physical locations that complicated political narratives. The debris includes missile fragments with serial numbers that trace directly to American military inventory, Reyes continued, which means the Chinese can prove American ordnance destroyed their aircraft, even though no American operations officially occurred in that airspace. The paradox was elegant in its complexity. Kaida's mission had achieved perfect tactical success while creating strategic complications that threatened to destabilize relationships between nuclear powers. The same precision that made her an exceptional pilot had generated evidence that could trigger diplomatic crises with military consequences. What does Chinese intelligence actually know? Kaida asked. Reyes consulted her encrypted tablet, reviewing information that would disappear from official records regardless of political outcomes. They know their aircraft were destroyed by American missiles. They know the engagement occurred in airspace where no American operations have been officially acknowledged. They don't know which American pilot flew the mission. The missing piece was pilot identification. Chinese intelligence possessed physical evidence of American military action, but lacked proof connecting specific aircrew to the engagement. Qaida's mission patch represented the only direct link between her individual service and the classified operation. The patch becomes crucial evidence, Reyes explained. If Chinese agents can photograph your uniform and match the insignia to their intelligence databases, they can identify you as the pilot who destroyed their aircraft. That identification transforms a theoretical diplomatic protest into concrete evidence of American aggression. Qaida understood immediately. Her mission patch, worn with appropriate military pride, had become a security liability that could trigger international incidents. The fabric square that commemorated her tactical achievement now threatened to expose operations that required absolute deniability. The solution emerged from an unexpected source. Captain Rodriguez, the squadron's newest pilot, approached Qaida during evening mess with information that changed the strategic calculation entirely. "I've been reviewing historical mission patches," Rodriguez said, settling across from Qaida with the careful movements of someone sharing classified information in a public setting. That specific design, the black triangle over red stripes, appears in military databases dating back 15 years. Qaida's training in intelligence analysis kicked in immediately. Meaning it's not unique to your Bagram mission. The same patch appears on uniforms belonging to pilots who flew operations in Syria, Libya, Yemen, and the South China Sea. All classified, all officially non-existent, all involving engagements with aircraft that belonged to nations we weren't technically at war with. The implications were staggering. Qaida's mission patch didn't represent a single operation, but rather an entire classification of activities that existed in the gray areas between diplomacy and warfare. Her Bagram engagement was part of a broader pattern of military actions that maintained strategic balance while avoiding official acknowledgement. Rodriguez continued with information that revealed the patch's true significance. Intelligence services use these patches to identify pilots who have conducted specific types of operations, not for decoration or recognition, but for operational security. If someone wears this patch, it means they've demonstrated capability for missions that require absolute discretion. And absolute deniability, Qaida added. Exactly. The Chinese aren't trying to prove American aggression. They're trying to identify pilots who are capable of conducting operations that officially don't exist. Your patch marks you as someone with experience in precisely the type of mission they want to prevent. The conference room meeting that followed included participants whose presence couldn't be acknowledged in official records. Military planners, intelligence analysts, and diplomatic representatives discussed options that ranged from complete denial to strategic disclosure. Martinez outlined the revised situation with characteristic directness. Chinese intelligence has identified the patch as indicating specific operational capabilities. They're not interested in proving the Bagram mission occurred. They want to identify American pilots who are trained for deep cover operations. Qaeda realized her position had evolved from potential diplomatic liability to strategic asset. Her mission patch didn't just commemorate past operations. It advertised capabilities that enemy intelligence services wanted to catalog and counter. "What's the recommendation?" she asked. The silver-haired intelligence officer smiled for the first time since their initial meeting. "We're going to give them exactly what they're looking for." Operation Mirror required Qaeda to become simultaneously visible and invisible. The mission parameters were elegantly simple. Allow Chinese intelligence to identify her as the pilot who wore the classified mission patch, while ensuring they discovered nothing useful about American operational capabilities. The execution required months of careful preparation. Qaeda's service records were selectively modified to include false information that would satisfy Chinese intelligence requirements while protecting actual operational details. Her mission patches were replaced with replicas that contained subtle differences detectable only through sophisticated analysis. Most importantly, her squadron received new orders that positioned them for missions that appeared strategically significant while accomplishing objectives that served broader intelligence purposes. Chinese surveillance would document American military activities that seemed important, but actually revealed nothing useful about actual capabilities. The first test occurred during a routine training exercise that was designed to appear like preparation for classified operations. Qaeda's F-35 launched from Nellis Air Force Base, with mission parameters that suggested deep penetration reconnaissance missions. Chinese satellites documented the exercise with predictable enthusiasm. "Ghost, this is control. Chinese intelligence assets are tracking your flight path with unusual interest," the controller reported through encrypted communications. Qaeda adjusted her approach to ensure optimal satellite coverage of her aircraft's performance characteristics. The exercise was designed to demonstrate capabilities that appeared impressive while concealing techniques that provided actual tactical advantages. Copy control, maintaining flight profile for maximum visibility. The irony was delicious. Chinese intelligence believed they were conducting surveillance on classified American operations. In reality, they were documenting carefully scripted performances designed to provide misleading information about actual capabilities. The mission patch became the centerpiece of an elaborate deception. Chinese agents photographed Qaida's uniform during public appearances, matching the patch design to their intelligence databases with satisfying precision. Their analysis confirmed her involvement in the Bagram operation, while missing completely the broader significance of her actual service record. Major Rays provided regular updates on Chinese intelligence activities that revealed the operation's success. They've identified you as Ghost, the pilot responsible for eliminating their stealth fighters. They've cataloged your mission patches as evidence of participation in classified operations. They have no idea that everything they've discovered was intentionally revealed. The strategic achievement was remarkable. Chinese intelligence possessed detailed information about Qaida's service that appeared comprehensive, while containing virtually nothing useful for operational planning. They knew exactly who had destroyed their aircraft without learning anything that would help them prevent similar losses in the future. The transformation of Qaida's reputation within the squadron reflected the operation's broader success. Pilots who had initially dismissed her as another example of military nepotism began recognizing her tactical expertise and operational sophistication. The mission patch that had once attracted suspicious questions now commanded respectful silence. Captain Morrison, promoted to major following his exemplary leadership during classified operations, approached Qaida with an assignment that revealed her evolving role within the military hierarchy. We're establishing a new training program for pilots who will conduct operations that don't officially exist, Morrison explained. Advanced tactical engagement in politically sensitive environments, deep cover reconnaissance in contested airspace, precision strikes that leave no evidence for international investigators. Qaida understood immediately. The military was institutionalizing the type of operations that had previously been conducted on an ad hoc basis. Her experience with the Bagram mission qualified her to train the next generation of pilots who would operate in the gray areas between diplomacy and warfare. You want me to teach pilots how to fight wars that officially aren't happening, she summarized. I want you to teach pilots how to protect American interests while maintaining plausible deniability, Morrison corrected. The Chinese aren't the only ones developing stealth fighters. Russian aircraft are probing our defensive perimeters with increasing frequency. Iranian drones are collecting intelligence in areas where American military presence can't be officially acknowledged. The training program required Qaida to develop curriculum that balanced tactical instruction with operational security requirements. Student pilots needed to learn advanced combat techniques while understanding the political implications of their potential missions. The first class included 12 pilots selected for their demonstrated competence and psychological suitability for classified operations. Each carried service records that suggested exceptional capability, combined with absolute discretion. The aircraft you'll be engaging don't officially exist, Qaeda explained during their initial briefing. The missions you'll be flying won't appear in any historical records. The enemy pilots you'll be fighting represent nations we're not officially at war with. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen raised her hand with a question that revealed sophisticated understanding of the program's implications. How do we measure mission success when the missions officially don't occur? Mission success is measured by the absence of international incidents, Qaeda replied. Enemy aircraft are eliminated. American aircraft return safely. Diplomatic relationships remain officially undisturbed. The only evidence of success is the continued stability of international agreements that would collapse if these operations became public knowledge. The evolution of Qaeda's call sign from mockery to legend reflected her growing reputation among military aviators who understood the complexities of modern aerial warfare. Ghost had originally been assigned because her tendency to appear unexpectedly during night operations reminded squadron mates of supernatural manifestations. The call sign acquired deeper meaning as her tactical achievements accumulated. Ghost because enemy aircraft encountered her without warning. Ghost because her stealth techniques made her invisible to radar systems that should have detected F-35 signatures. Ghost because classified after action reports documented engagements that seemed to violate known principles of aerial combat. Most significantly, Ghost because she conducted operations that left no evidence for historical analysis. Enemy aircraft simply disappeared. International incidents were avoided. Diplomatic crises failed to materialize. The only proof of her tactical excellence existed in classified databases that would never be subject to congressional oversight. The training program's first graduation ceremony occurred in a hangar where no official records would document the proceedings. 12 pilots received patches that looked identical to standard military insignia, while containing design elements that marked them as qualified for operations requiring absolute discretion. General Patricia Williams, whose presence at the ceremony couldn't be acknowledged in official schedules, addressed the graduates with characteristic directness. You represent the future of American military aviation, not because you're the most skilled pilots, but because you understand the difference between tactical victory and strategic success. Qaeda watched her students receive their patches with pride that balanced professional satisfaction with awareness of the burdens they were accepting. Each pilot now carried responsibility for maintaining American military superiority while avoiding international conflicts that could destabilize global security. Your missions will never be acknowledged, General Williams continued. Your achievements will never be publicized. Your sacrifices will never be recognized in historical records. But your success will be measured by the peace that continues because threats are eliminated before they can trigger larger conflicts. The ceremony concluded with traditional military formality that masked the revolutionary nature of the program's objectives. American military doctrine was evolving to accommodate operations that existed in the spaces between official warfare and diplomatic negotiation. Rodriguez, now promoted to captain following exceptional performance in advanced tactical training, approached Qaeda with news that indicated the program's expanding significance. Intelligence reports suggest Chinese military planners are developing countermeasures specifically designed to neutralize pilots who wear patches similar to yours, Rodriguez reported. They're trying to identify and eliminate American aviators who are qualified for deep cover operations. The Chinese countermeasures represented both validation and escalation. Enemy intelligence services had recognized the threat posed by American pilots trained for operations that didn't officially exist. Their response involved developing techniques specifically designed to identify and neutralize such aviators. Major Reyes briefed Qaeda on the intelligence implications with information that revealed the global scope of the emerging conflict. Chinese agents are conducting surveillance operations at American air bases, photographing pilots' mission patches, and cross-referencing the images with their intelligence databases. They're trying to create a comprehensive catalog of American aircrew qualified for classified operations. The revelation transformed Qaeda's mission patch from a symbol of achievement into a target for enemy intelligence services. Wearing the patch publicly now carried personal security risks that extended beyond military considerations into potential civilian vulnerabilities. They're not just trying to identify pilots, Reyes continued. They're developing psychological profiles to predict operational patterns. If they can understand how we select and train aircrew for sensitive missions, they can develop countermeasures that neutralize our tactical advantages. Qaeda analyzed the situation with the same methodical precision she applied to aerial combat scenarios. Chinese intelligence had identified her capabilities and was attempting to develop strategies that would prevent similar operations in the future. The success of their counterintelligence efforts would determine whether American military advantages could be maintained in future conflicts. "What's our response?" she asked. "We're going to accelerate the program," Reyes replied. "Train more pilots, develop more sophisticated techniques, expand operations to include threats that haven't yet been identified by enemy intelligence services." The expansion required Qaeda to recruit instructors from across the military aviation community. Pilots with experience in different aircraft types, different operational environments, and different enemy capabilities. Each instructor brought expertise that contributed to a comprehensive curriculum covering all aspects of combat operations that required absolute secrecy. Colonel Martinez, promoted following his exceptional leadership during classified operations, provided resources that reflected the program's strategic importance. "This isn't just about training pilots," he explained. "We're developing doctrine for a new type of warfare, conflicts that occur without official acknowledgement, military operations that achieve strategic objectives while maintaining diplomatic deniability." The doctrine required balancing tactical effectiveness with political considerations that changed depending on international circumstances. Pilots needed to understand not just how to engage enemy aircraft, but when engagement would serve broader strategic objectives, and when restraint would better protect American interests. The program's first major test came when intelligence sources identified a new threat requiring immediate response. Russian stealth fighters were conducting reconnaissance missions over American installations in the Arctic, gathering information that could compromise defensive preparations for potential future conflicts. The mission parameters were familiar: intercept enemy aircraft in airspace where American military presence couldn't be officially acknowledged, using techniques that would leave no evidence for international investigators to examine. Qaeda selected Lieutenant Commander Chen to lead the mission, recognizing her combination of tactical skill and operational maturity. Chen's F-35 launched into Arctic darkness, with mission objectives that paralleled Qaeda's Bagram engagement, while incorporating lessons learned from subsequent operations. Ghost, this is control. Russian aircraft bearing 045, altitude 42,000, approaching restricted airspace. Chen's voice carried the calm professionalism that marked pilots trained for operations requiring absolute precision. Copy, control, beginning intercept sequence. The engagement occurred above the Beaufort Sea, where international waters provided legal cover for operations that would be impossible over sovereign territory. Chen's tactical approach demonstrated the advanced techniques taught in Qaeda's program: stealth penetration, precision targeting, complete evidence elimination. "Contact eliminated," Chen reported. "No debris recovery possible. No witness statements available. No international incidents anticipated." The after-action report documented perfect mission execution, while revealing areas where doctrine could be improved. Chen had successfully eliminated enemy aircraft while maintaining operational security, but post-mission analysis suggested techniques for reducing radar signature, even further during future engagements. Qaeda reviewed the mission recordings with professional satisfaction that balanced pride in her students' achievement with awareness of the escalating nature of international conflicts. Each successful operation demonstrated American tactical superiority, while potentially provoking enemy responses that required even more sophisticated countermeasures. Major Morrison provided strategic context that revealed the mission's broader significance. Russian intelligence is analyzing the debris patterns from Chen's engagement. They're trying to understand how their stealth fighters were detected and eliminated by American aircraft that supposedly weren't operating in that area. The pattern was becoming familiar. Enemy forces conducted reconnaissance operations that threatened American security interests. American pilots eliminated those threats using techniques that left minimal evidence. Enemy intelligence services attempted to develop countermeasures based on limited information about American capabilities. The cycle is accelerating, Morrison observed. Each successful mission provokes more sophisticated enemy responses, which requires more advanced American techniques, which eventually provoke even more sophisticated enemy countermeasures. The escalation reached a critical threshold when Chinese intelligence successfully identified 3 additional American pilots who wore mission patches similar to Qaeda's. The identification compromised operational security for classified programs that extended far beyond individual pilot training. Emergency briefings revealed the scope of the intelligence failure. Chinese agents had photographed mission patches during public military ceremonies, analyzed the designs using sophisticated pattern recognition software, and cross-referenced the results with their databases of American military personnel. They know who our pilots are, General Williams explained during a secure briefing that included military leaders whose participation couldn't be acknowledged in official records. They know which aircraft they fly. They know which bases they operate from. They can predict when and where future operations might occur. The intelligence compromise threatened to neutralize American tactical advantages that had been developed over decades of classified research and operational experience. Enemy forces could now anticipate American military responses and develop countermeasures that would significantly reduce the effectiveness of future operations. Qaeda found herself at the center of discussions about fundamental changes to American military doctrine. Her success as an instructor had created a new generation of pilots qualified for operations that required absolute secrecy. The compromise of their identities now threatened to expose the entire program to enemy countermeasures. We have 3 options, General Williams outlined. Option 1. Abandon the program and accept reduced American military capabilities. Option 2. Continue the program with modified operational security procedures. Option 3. Expand the program to include operations that enemy intelligence services can't predict or counter. The strategic implications of each option required careful analysis that balanced immediate tactical concerns with long-term military planning. Abandoning the program would leave American forces vulnerable to threats that conventional military responses couldn't address effectively. Modified operational security might protect future operations, but wouldn't address the immediate compromise of existing personnel. Enemy intelligence services already possessed information that could be used to develop countermeasures against current American capabilities. Expansion offered the possibility of maintaining tactical advantages while introducing new variables that would complicate enemy planning. However, expansion also increased the risks associated with operations that already existed at the boundaries of international law. The decision requires presidential approval, General Williams concluded, but the recommendation needs to come from military leaders who understand the operational implications. Qaeda realized her role in the decision-making process extended beyond her expertise as a pilot and instructor. Her successful operations had demonstrated the tactical effectiveness of the program. Her compromised identity illustrated the security vulnerabilities that threatened future operations. The presidential briefing occurred in a secure facility where no official records would document the proceedings. Military leaders presented options that balanced tactical requirements with strategic consequences, political considerations with operational necessities. President Harrison listened to presentations that revealed the full scope of classified military operations conducted by pilots whose existence couldn't be officially acknowledged. The briefing materials included videos of successful missions, analysis of enemy countermeasures, and projections for future threats that would require even more sophisticated American responses. How many pilots are we talking about? The president asked. Currently 47 pilots trained for operations requiring absolute discretion, General Williams replied. Each represents approximately $3 million in advanced training costs and possesses capabilities that can't be easily replaced. And enemy intelligence services have identified how many of these pilots. Chinese agents have photographed mission patches belonging to 12 pilots. Russian intelligence has identified an additional 8. Iranian surveillance has documented 5 more. The compromise affects more than half our qualified personnel. The president reviewed classified summaries that revealed the international scope of threats requiring American military responses that couldn't be officially acknowledged. Chinese stealth fighters conducting reconnaissance over strategically sensitive installations, Russian aircraft probing defensive perimeters with increasing frequency, Iranian drones collecting intelligence in regions where American military presence remained officially undisclosed. What happens if we abandon these operations? President Harrison inquired. American defensive capabilities would be significantly reduced, General Williams replied. Enemy forces would conduct reconnaissance operations without interference. Strategic installations would be vulnerable to surveillance that could compromise defensive preparations. Military advantages developed over decades would be lost. The alternative involved accepting risks that extended beyond military considerations into potential international incidents that could destabilize diplomatic relationships. Continued operations using compromised personnel would provide enemy intelligence services with opportunities to predict and counter American military responses. The recommendation is expansion, General Williams stated. Train additional pilots using modified techniques that enemy intelligence services can't easily identify. Develop new operational procedures that maintain tactical effectiveness while providing better security for personnel conducting classified missions. President Harrison approved the expansion with modifications that reflected political realities constraining military operations. The program would continue with enhanced security measures and expanded training objectives, but operations would be subject to additional oversight designed to prevent international incidents that could trigger larger conflicts. Qaeda learned of the decision through classified channels that revealed her evolving role within the expanded program. She would continue training pilots while developing new techniques that would maintain American tactical advantages, despite enemy countermeasures. The expansion transformed Qaeda's training program from a specialized course for select pilots into a comprehensive military school dedicated to operations requiring absolute secrecy. The new facility, constructed at an undisclosed location, contained simulation equipment that replicated every known enemy aircraft and defensive system. Advanced students arrived with service records that reflected exceptional capability, combined with psychological profiles, indicating suitability for missions that would never be officially acknowledged. Each pilot underwent training that prepared them for operations spanning the spectrum from routine reconnaissance to precision strikes, requiring complete evidence elimination. Qaeda's curriculum evolved to include subjects that weren't taught at traditional military schools. International law as it applied to operations that officially didn't exist, diplomatic implications of tactical decisions made during combat engagements, psychological techniques for maintaining operational security under interrogation, by enemy intelligence services. The aircraft you'll be flying don't appear in official military inventories, Qaeda explained to her newest class. The weapons you'll be employing aren't listed in congressional budget documents. The missions you'll be conducting won't be mentioned in historical records that acknowledge American military operations. Lieutenant Angela Rivera raised her hand with a question that demonstrated sophisticated understanding of the program's complexity. How do we maintain accountability for actions that can't be officially acknowledged? Accountability is maintained through classified oversight systems that exist parallel to official military command structures, Qaeda replied. Every mission is reviewed by intelligence analysts who ensure operations serve legitimate military objectives. Every engagement is analyzed by legal experts who confirm compliance with applicable international laws. The answer satisfied regulatory requirements while revealing the ethical complexity of operations that existed in legal gray areas. Pilots were expected to make tactical decisions that served American strategic interests while avoiding actions that could trigger international incidents. Captain Rodriguez, now serving as an assistant instructor, provided practical training that complemented Qaeda's theoretical instruction. His recent experience with classified operations offered students current information about enemy capabilities and countermeasures. Russian stealth fighters have been modified with defensive systems specifically designed to counter American missile technology, Rodriguez explained during a tactical briefing. Chinese aircraft include electronic warfare equipment that can disrupt our targeting systems. Iranian drones incorporate stealth characteristics that make detection increasingly difficult. The evolving enemy capabilities required corresponding evolution in American tactics and equipment. Students learned to employ weapons systems that weren't publicly acknowledged, using techniques that weren't documented in official training manuals. The first indication that enemy intelligence services had developed countermeasures, specifically targeting the expanded program, came through intercepted communications between Chinese and Russian military planners. Translation revealed discussions about ghost pilot elimination protocols, designed to identify and neutralize American aircrew qualified for classified operations. Major Reyes briefed Qaeda on the intelligence implications with information that demonstrated the global scope of the emerging threat. Chinese agents are conducting enhanced surveillance operations at American military installations, using facial recognition software to identify pilots who might be qualified for sensitive missions. Russian intelligence is analyzing American aircraft modification patterns to predict which squadrons might be conducting classified operations. The countermeasures represented a fundamental shift in enemy intelligence objectives. Rather than simply gathering information about American military capabilities, enemy services were actively attempting to neutralize specific personnel whose tactical expertise threatened their strategic interests. They're not just trying to counter our operations, Reyes continued. They're trying to eliminate our operational capacity by identifying and targeting the individuals who make these missions possible. The revelation transformed personal security considerations for pilots trained in classified operations. Wearing mission patches in public now carried risks that extended beyond professional concerns into potential physical threats against American military personnel. Qaeda analyzed the situation with tactical precision that revealed several options for maintaining operational effectiveness despite enemy countermeasures. Modified training procedures could reduce the visibility of qualified personnel. Enhanced security measures could protect pilots from enemy intelligence surveillance. Alternative identification systems could replace mission patches that had become security liabilities. We're implementing all three approaches, General Williams announced during a classified briefing that included military leaders from multiple services. Modified training that reduces the exposure of qualified personnel. Enhanced security for pilots conducting sensitive missions. New identification systems that provide operational security while maintaining unit cohesion. The modifications required fundamental changes to established military traditions. Mission patches that had served for decades as symbols of unit achievement and individual recognition were replaced with systems that provided the same psychological benefits while avoiding security vulnerabilities. Most significantly, pilot training was restructured to include extensive instruction in personal security techniques that hadn't previously.